When Ryan told me he was getting married, I smiled, clapped, and hugged him like any sister would. On the outside, I was happy for him, but deep inside, I felt a knot forming in my chest. Maybe it was intuition, maybe it was jealousy, maybe it was just fear of change. I didn't know then. But I know now. Sometimes your gut tells you the truth before your mind has the courage to accept it. The first time I met her, Sophia, I wanted so badly to like her. She was beautiful, polished, the kind of woman who knows exactly how to charm a room. Her smile was perfect, but it didn't reach her eyes. She hugged me lightly, like I was something fragile she didn't want to touch too much. "Kate," she said sweetly, "I've heard so much about you." And in that very moment, the way she looked at me, I realized she didn't mean it. At the wedding, everyone seemed to fall under her spell. My parents adored her. Ryan looked at her like she was a goddess, and even the guests whispered about how lucky my brother was. I tried to join in the joy, to silence the small, uneasy voice in my head. But every time Sophia's gaze flicked my way, cold and sharp, I knew something wasn't right. The first few months after the marriage were tolerable. She was polite, though distant. But soon, I began to notice the changes in Ryan. He used to call me daily, sometimes just to talk about work or to laugh about something silly. Slowly, those calls became less frequent. When I called him, Sophia always answered first. "Ryan's busy," she would say curtly and hang up. Then came the gatherings. Family dinners that once felt warm suddenly turned tense. Sophia always found a way to steer the conversation, to throw little comments disguised as jokes. "Kate, you still haven't settled down? Still chasing careers and hobbies?" she'd say, her tone dripping with false innocence. My parents laughed nervously, brushing it off, but I felt the sting. Ryan didn't defend me. Not once. It was subtle at first, but then it grew bolder. She began pulling Ryan away from us, bit by bit. He started declining dinners with our parents, saying Sophia wasn't feeling well. He missed our father's birthday for the first time in his life. Our mother cried that night, saying, "Ryan never forgets. He never misses family events." But he did. And when I asked him why, his voice was distant, almost rehearsed. "Sophia and I have other priorities now, Kate. You wouldn't understand." Wouldn't understand? I was his sister. I'd been by his side through every struggle, every triumph. How could I not understand? One night, after a particularly heated family dinner where Sophia subtly belittled me in front of relatives, I decided to confront Ryan privately. I cornered him in the kitchen while Sophia entertained guests in the living room. "Ryan, what's happening to you?" I asked, my voice shaking. "You've changed. You're not the same brother I knew. You barely call. You don't show up for mom and dad. And Sophia? She doesn't even try to hide how much she dislikes me." He froze, then looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize. Cold. Distant. "You're imagining things, Kate," he said flatly. "Sophia cares about this family. Maybe you just don't like her, because you're jealous." Jealous. That word stung like a blade. Jealous? Of her? Of course. That's what Sophia had been whispering into his ear, turning me into the villain. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him see what was happening. But I didn't. Because in that moment I realized I wasn't just fighting my brother anymore. I was fighting his wife's poison, slowly dripping into his veins, changing the way he thought, the way he saw us. It didn't stop there. Soon, I noticed Sophia's manipulation spreading beyond Ryan. My parents started feeling the shift too. She would subtly suggest things like, "Maybe Ryan and I should handle the family finances since we're married now." Or, "Kate is busy with her own life. Maybe she doesn't need to be involved in family matters." Little by little, I felt myself being pushed out. Out of decisions, out of Ryan's trust, out of the family I thought I belonged to. And what scared me most was how easily Ryan agreed with her. One evening, after another family dinner filled with cold silences and fake smiles, my father pulled me aside. His voice was quiet, pained. "Kate, I don't know what's happening, but your brother is drifting away. That woman, she doesn't seem to want us around." I wanted to cry, but I held it in. I couldn't let them see me break. Instead, I promised myself something in that moment. I would not let Sophia destroy my family. I would not let her take my brother completely. But how? That was the question. Direct confrontation wouldn't work. Ryan was already blinded by her. If I attacked her openly, he would only see me as the problem, confirming whatever lies she had told him. No, I couldn't go at her head-on. I needed to be smarter, quieter. I needed to gather proof, to peel away her mask in front of Ryan, piece by piece, until he could no longer deny the truth. And so I decided to wait.
To watch.
To listen. To collect every slip, every inconsistency, every whispered word she thought no one else heard.
It was no longer just about me.
It was about my parents, about our family, about the bond Sophia was trying to sever forever. She wanted it all. Our inheritance, our home, our brother. But she had forgotten one thing. I may be quiet, but I am not weak. And in silence, I began to plan. I've always believed that when people show you who they really are, you should believe them. But with Sophia, it wasn't that simple. She never dropped her mask in front of Ryan. To him, she was the loving, supportive wife. To everyone else, she was the perfect daughter-in-law. But when her eyes landed on me, I saw something darker. A flicker of disdain. A flash of triumph. Like she'd already won some unspoken war I hadn't even realized I was fighting. I knew I couldn't do this alone. Keeping the weight of her games bottled up inside me was eating away at me. I needed someone I could trust, someone who wouldn't dismiss me as paranoid or jealous. So I turned to Alina, my childhood friend, my confidant, the one person who had seen every side of me and never judged. We met at our usual cafe, tucked away in a quiet corner where the hum of conversation provided a comforting background. I stared at the steam curling from my coffee cup before blurting out, "Sophia is trying to take Ryan away from us." Alina raised her eyebrows but didn't laugh. That's why I trusted her. She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. "Tell me everything." And I did. I poured it all out. The cold stares, the subtle digs at family dinners, the way Ryan had started distancing himself, even the word that cut me deepest, jealous. Alina listened silently, her expression unreadable. When I finally finished, I exhaled shakily, half expecting her to tell me I was overreacting. Instead, she said softly, "You're not crazy, Kate. I've seen women like her before. They isolate their partners, make them dependent, and then they take everything. But you're right, if you confront her head-on, Ryan will side with her. You need proof. You need him to see her true face himself." Her words steadied me. For the first time in weeks, I felt less alone. But the question remained, how do you expose someone who's so careful, so calculated? That night, back home, I started watching more closely. Every family dinner, every visit, I paid attention to the little things. Sophia always insisted on handling the finances when bills came up. She discouraged Ryan from spending time with our parents, saying things like, "They need to let you live your own life." And she never missed a chance to remind him that I was too involved in his matters. One evening, I stayed late at Ryan's house under the pretense of helping with some decorations for a small gathering. As Sophia bustled around the kitchen, I overheard her on the phone. Her voice was hushed, but her words made my stomach clench. "Don't worry," she said to whoever was on the other end. "Ryan trusts me completely. Soon, everything will be under my control." Everything. Under her control. I froze, straining to hear more, but she must have sensed I was nearby because she ended the call abruptly. When she turned and saw me, her smile was tight, forced. "Oh, Kate. Didn't hear you come in." I played dumb, forcing a smile. Just thought I'd grab a glass of water. My heart was pounding, but I didn't let it show. That moment confirmed what I already knew. Sophia wasn't just trying to separate Ryan from us emotionally. She wanted control over everything, our family, our inheritance, maybe even our home. The next step was harder, documenting her behavior without raising suspicion. I started keeping a journal, writing down every comment, every strange interaction, every time Ryan repeated something that sounded suspiciously like Sophia's words. Slowly, a pattern emerged. She wasn't just manipulating him, she was systematically dismantling his trust in us. But a journal wouldn't be enough. I needed something undeniable. So, with Alina's help, I began planning subtle traps. Nothing obvious, nothing that would make Ryan accuse me of trying to sabotage his marriage. Just small, careful setups to catch Sophia slipping. One of the first opportunities came during a family dinner. I deliberately mentioned that our parents were thinking about updating their will. I watched Sophia's face closely. For a fraction of a second, her smile faltered. Her eyes flicked toward Ryan, then quickly back to me. She recovered instantly, laughing lightly. "Oh, I'm sure that's years away," she said. But I caught that crack in her armor. Later that night, Ryan called me. His tone was sharp, defensive. "Why would you bring up the will in front of Sophia? Do you know how insensitive that is?" I wanted to scream. It was exactly what she wanted, him defending her against me. But instead, I said calmly, "I was just making conversation, Ryan. Relax." I could almost hear Sophia feeding him lines in the background. Every move I made, she countered. Every attempt to connect with Ryan, she twisted into something ugly. But I refused to give up. Then came the breakthrough. One afternoon, Alina and I went to a local boutique. By chance, we spotted Sophia there, alone. She was talking animatedly to the clerk, complaining about Ryan in a voice dripping with disdain. "He's too soft, too attached to his family. If I let them, they'll walk all over us. But not for long. Once I handle things, they'll have no say." Alina grabbed my arm. "Do you hear this?" she whispered. My pulse raced. Finally proof, but it was only words, and I couldn't record it without being noticed. Still, it was a crack I could exploit. When I casually mentioned to Ryan later that I'd seen Sophia at the boutique, his reaction told me everything. His eyes narrowed and he asked, "Were you following her?" She had gotten to him again, twisting even coincidence into suspicion. But I didn't argue. I just smiled and said, "No, just bumped into her." She seemed stressed. I let the word hang in the air, planting a seed. Seeds, that's what I needed. Tiny doubts, carefully sown, slowly growing in Ryan's mind. If I couldn't tear Sophia's mask off myself, I'd make her unravel it in front of him. As Alina and I sat down later that week, she leaned in and said, "You need something bigger. Something she can't talk her way out of. Maybe a recording. Or financial records. Something solid."
She was right.
And I knew the perfect opportunity was coming. Ryan and Sophia had invited the family to their anniversary dinner. Sophia loved putting on a show, being the center of attention. Which meant she'd be relaxed, confident. And people like her always slip when they're too sure of themselves. That night, as I stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep, I made a promise to myself. At that dinner, I wouldn't just sit quietly. I would be ready. Sophia thought she was untouchable, but she had no idea how patient I could be. Anniversaries are supposed to be about love, celebration, and family. But as I stood in front of the mirror, smoothing out my dress and trying to calm the storm in my chest, I knew this dinner would be anything but ordinary. Tonight wasn't just about Ryan and Sophia's marriage. Tonight was about truth, whether Ryan was ready for it or not. When I arrived at their house, everything looked perfect, almost staged. Sophia had gone all out, silver candles, glittering glasses, a table set like something from a magazine. She loved putting on a show, and tonight she was glowing, floating from guest to guest like a queen holding court. "Kate," she said warmly when she spotted me, pulling me into a hug. For a moment, anyone watching would think we were sisters-in-law who adored each other. But when her lips brushed my cheek, I felt her whisper hot against my ear. "Don't ruin this for Ryan. Behave." I pulled back with a smile that matched hers. Of course, Sophia. Wouldn't dream of it. But inside, my hands clenched into fists. The evening began like every other family gathering. Toasts were made, laughter filled the room. Ryan beamed with pride as he spoke about his marriage. My parents sat nearby, trying to mask their unease, but I saw it. I felt it. This wasn't just my fight, it was theirs too. Halfway through dinner, Sophia rose to give a speech. Her voice was smooth, practiced. I just want to say how grateful I am to be part of this family. You've all welcomed me so warmly, and I feel truly blessed. She clasped Ryan's hand dramatically, squeezing it for effect. The guests clapped, smiling. It was all perfect. Too perfect. And that's when I decided it was time. I stood slowly, the scrape of my chair cutting through the chatter. All eyes turned to me. My heart pounded, but my voice was steady. I'd like to say something too. About family. Sophia's smile flickered, just slightly, before she recovered. Of course, Kate, she said sweetly. I looked directly at Ryan. Family means trust. It means loyalty. It means knowing the people closest to you would never hurt you. My gaze shifted to Sophia. But what happens when someone you welcome into your home doesn't want to be part of the family at all? A murmur rippled through the room. Ryan frowned, his grip tightening on Sophia's hand. Kate, what are you? I cut him off. What if they only want control? What if they're slowly turning you against the very people who raised you? What if everything they say, every sweet smile, is just a mask? The room went silent. You could hear the clinking of glasses being set down, the sharp intake of breath from my mother. Sophia's face was calm, but her eyes burned into me. Kate, she said softly, her voice dripping with concern, I think you've misunderstood me. I love this family. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small notebook. My journal. Pages filled with dates, times, quotes. I flipped it open and read aloud. On March 12th, you told Ryan I was jealous of you. On April 2nd, you said I didn't care about our parents. On April 15th, you insisted on handling the family finances without including me. And last week at the boutique, you told someone that once you handled things, no one in this family would have a say. Gasps echoed around the table. My father leaned forward, his jaw tight. Is this true? He demanded. Sophia laughed lightly, though her face was pale. Kate, this is ridiculous. You're keeping a diary of things you think I said? Anyone can twist words around. You must have misheard. I slammed the notebook shut. I didn't mishear. And you know it. Ryan stood abruptly, his voice sharp. Enough. Kate, you're embarrassing yourself. You come here on my anniversary and accuse my wife in front of everyone? This is low, even for you.
Even for me.
The words cut deep, but I didn't flinch. I looked at him steadily. I'm not here to embarrass you, Ryan. I'm here to save you. You think she loves this family? Then why does she always try to pull you away from us? Why does she whisper that we're against you? Why does she need control of everything? Sophia gripped his arm tightly, her nails digging in. Ryan, don't listen to this. She's jealous, just like I told you. The room was thick with tension. Some relatives looked away, uncomfortable. Others stared at Sophia, doubt flickering in their eyes. My mother's hands trembled as she clutched her glass. I knew I couldn't push too far, too fast. I had to leave the seed planted. So I forced a smile, my voice calm. You're right, Ryan. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I misheard. Maybe I've imagined it all. But the truth always comes out. Always. I sat down slowly, the weight of every eye on me. The rest of the dinner passed in a strained silence. Conversations were forced, laughter hollow. Sophia tried to recover, telling jokes, but the energy was gone. I had cracked her mask, even if just a little. When the evening ended, Ryan avoided my gaze, storming off with Sophia at his side. But as I hugged my parents goodbye, my father whispered, You did the right thing, Kate. She's hiding something. I can feel it. And I knew then, I wasn't alone anymore. The doubt had spread. The first battle was over. The war was just beginning. I swear, by the time the next family dinner rolled around, my chest felt like it was carrying 100 bricks. Not because of the weight of the secret anymore. No, that was something I'd learned to carry, but because I knew tonight was going to be a turning point. I had spent weeks holding back, letting them underestimate me. Emily, with her sly smiles and little digs. Ryan, with his arrogant pride, paraded her around as if she were some trophy. And my parents, blind to it all, just desperate to keep the peace. But tonight, the mask was going to slip. The dinner started off perfectly ordinary. My mother set the table with her usual care: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, fresh bread. My father poured wine for everyone. Ryan walked in with Emily clinging to his arm, wearing that shade of lipstick I'd come to despise. It wasn't just a color. It was a warning flag, a silent declaration of war. She greeted me sweetly, too sweetly, like honey laced with poison. "Kate, darling," she said, "you look so lovely tonight." Simple, but charming. I smiled back, forcing calm into my voice. "Emily, you never miss a chance to notice the simple things, do you?" Her eyes flickered, just for a moment, catching the edge in my words. She knew. Oh, she definitely knew. The first half of the meal went by quietly enough. Laughter, small talk, my parents asking Ryan about his work. But every time Emily spoke, I felt her needling into me, testing how much she could push. She made comments about how family businesses are outdated and how some traditions are better left in the past. My father chuckled politely. My mother nodded. But me? I heard the undertone. She wasn't talking about traditions, she was talking about us. I waited, patiently, like I always did. And then Ryan stood up, glass in hand. "I just want to say," he announced, grinning like a fool, "that I am the happiest I've ever been. I married the love of my life, and I finally feel like I'm building something of my own. Cheers to that." Everyone clapped politely. Emily leaned into him, smiling like she'd already won. That's when I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. My voice cut through the air like a blade. "Ryan, you forgot to mention the part where you used our family's money to build your happiness." The room froze. My father's hand stopped midair, wine dripping from the bottle. My mother's fork clinked against her plate. Ryan's face dropped, just for a second, before he tried to laugh it off. "What are you talking about, Kate?" he said, his voice light but tight at the edges. Emily's hand tightened on his arm. She looked at me, her smile faltering. I stood up slowly, letting the silence stretch, making sure every eye was on me. "I'm talking about the loan you took out against the family property. The one Emily conveniently forgot to mention when she told my parents she'd help manage things." Gasps rippled across the table. My mother's face turned pale. My father's brows knit together in confusion. Ryan's smile cracked. "That's ridiculous." But I cut him off. My voice was sharper now, harder. "Don't bother lying, Ryan. I have the documents. I've seen the signatures. The payments. Everything." Emily's face drained of color, but she still tried to recover. "Kate, you must be mistaken. You don't understand the complexities of." I slammed the folder onto the table. Papers spilled out, photocopies, bank records, signed agreements. All neatly arranged. All damning. My father pushed back his chair, standing slowly. His hands shook as he picked up one of the papers, his eyes scanning over the words. My mother covered her mouth with her hand, tears already welling up. Ryan's voice rose, desperate now. "Kate, this isn't what it looks like. Emily and we were going to tell you, all of you. It's complicated." But I didn't let him breathe. I didn't let him recover. I leaned in, my voice calm, deliberate, every word slicing through the tension. "It's not complicated, Ryan. It's betrayal. You sold out the people who raised you. You let her convince you that we were the problem, and you thought you could hide it." Emily finally snapped, her sweet facade shattering. "We did what we had to do. Your parents are too old-fashioned, stuck in their ways. They don't see the opportunities we see. Ryan deserves better than being tied down to this dusty old house and your judgmental eyes." The room erupted. My mother sobbed openly, my father shouting over Emily's words, demanding answers. Ryan tried to calm Emily, but she was beyond control, spitting venom, showing her true colors for everyone to see. I stayed silent, watching, letting them implode. Because the truth? I didn't need to add another word. The damage was already done. My parents saw it now, clear as daylight. The lies. The manipulation. The way Emily had twisted Ryan into betraying us. But as I stood there, heart racing, I knew this was just the beginning. Tonight, I had cracked their armor. But if I wanted to finish this war, if I wanted to make sure they never came back from it, I had to be patient. I had to be precise. And most importantly, I had to let them destroy themselves. After that dinner, everything changed. You could feel it in the silence of the house afterward, in the way my father's voice trembled when he spoke to Ryan, in the way my mother clutched my hand as if she'd only just realized what she could lose. Ryan and Emily left early that night, faces red with shame, muttering excuses as they stormed out. I stayed behind with my parents, sitting at that heavy oak table littered with papers and half-eaten food. For the first time, they looked at me not just as their daughter, but as someone they could trust with the truth. "Kate," my father said, voice hoarse, "how long have you known?" I hesitated. Long enough. I didn't want to bring it up until I was sure. Until I had proof. My mother whispered. We were so blind. I wanted to believe Ryan was happy. I wanted to believe Emily loved him. But her voice cracked. She's been planning this all along, hasn't she? I didn't answer directly. Instead, I laid out the documents one by one, walking them through the web Ryan and Emily had spun. Bank loans against family property. Withdrawals that didn't add up. Payments to accounts under Emily's maiden name. The more they saw, the more their shoulders sagged. It was like watching my parents age 10 years in a single evening. But I wasn't going to let despair win. Not yet. Listen to me, I said firmly, looking them both in the eyes. This isn't the end. Ryan thinks he's smart, but he left trails everywhere. Emily's greed is sloppy. And if we play this right, we can stop them before they bleed us dry. My father's hands shook as he folded one of the documents. And what then, Kate? He's still our son. I swallowed hard. This was the part that hurt the most.
Yes.
He's your son. But right now, he's also your enemy. If you keep treating him like a son, he'll use that against you. He'll use your love as a weapon. You can't let him. For a long moment, the only sound was the clock ticking on the wall. Then my father leaned back in his chair, eyes hollow but resolute. Then we do it your way. The days that followed were tense, like waiting for a storm you knew was coming but couldn't yet see. Ryan avoided me, of course. He wouldn't answer my calls, and when I saw him in town, he turned the other way. Emily, on the other hand, seemed determined to keep playing her game. She showed up at my parents' house one afternoon with flowers, smiling so sweetly you'd think nothing had happened. My mother almost slammed the door in her face, but I stopped her. "Let her in," I whispered. Emily walked through the door like she owned it, hugging my mother, complimenting the curtains, making small talk. But I watched her closely. Every glance, every twitch of her lips. She was nervous. She was covering. "Kate," she said finally, turning her attention to me. "I think we got off on the wrong foot the other night. I know things looked bad, but you have to understand, Ryan and I only want what's best for the family." I raised an eyebrow. Funny way of showing it. Stealing from us. Her eyes flashed, but she quickly smoothed it over with a laugh. "You're exaggerating. It was a loan. Investments, really. All of it is meant to secure a better future for all of us." "A future where you control everything," I countered. Her smile faltered. Just for a second. Then she leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper only I could hear. "You think you're clever, Kate. But you don't know how far I'm willing to go. This family will be mine. And you? You'll always be the one standing in the shadows." Her words sent a chill down my spine. But I didn't flinch. I met her gaze, steady and cold. "We'll see about that." That night, I gathered with my parents again. "She's not stopping," I told them. "She's doubling down. And if we sit still, she'll win." But I've been thinking. I spread out another set of papers on the table, this time recordings. Snippets of conversations I'd secretly caught when Ryan had been bragging to his friends. His voice, cocky and careless, talking about how he was finally free of the old ball and chain of family responsibilities. How Emily was smarter than all of them put together. How he'd get his hands on everything once my parents were too weak to fight. When my father heard his son's voice, his face went pale. My mother cried silently, but I didn't let them linger in their pain. "This is our weapon," I said firmly. "This is how we prove to everyone what's really going on. If Ryan and Emily think they can manipulate behind closed doors, then we'll open those doors wide." My father hesitated. "You're suggesting we what? Expose them? Publicly?" "Yes," I said. "At the next family gathering. Everyone will be there, uncles, aunts, cousins. The perfect audience. Ryan thrives on their admiration. If we take that away, if we strip him bare in front of them, he won't just lose us. He'll lose everything." My parents exchanged a long look. Then slowly my mother nodded. "Do it. End this." The plan was set. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a surge of control. This wasn't about surviving anymore. It was about fighting back. But even as I prepared, even as I imagined the look on Emily's face when the truth unraveled in front of everyone, a part of me couldn't help but wonder, how far would they go when they realized they were losing? Because something in Emily's eyes that afternoon had unsettled me. The way she threatened me so casually, so confidently. She wasn't just after money. She wanted destruction. She wanted dominance. And Ryan? He was too blinded by love or obsession to see that she would burn down everything around him, including him, if it meant she got her way. That thought haunted me as I folded the papers back into my folder, as I lay awake in bed that night staring at the ceiling. The storm wasn't just coming. It was already here. And I had to be ready to weather it, no matter how ugly it got. Family gatherings had always been chaotic in their own way. Loud laughter, overlapping conversations, clinking glasses, cousins running around, and that constant sense of warmth and tradition. But this time, the atmosphere carried a strange tension, like everyone sensed an unspoken undercurrent. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was the way I carried myself that day. Calm, composed, folder tucked under my arm like a weapon no one else could see. Ryan and Emily arrived late, of course. They always did. Emily in her designer dress, shimmering like she thought she was royalty. Ryan puffed up like a peacock beside her. They walked in smiling, greeting everyone, collecting hugs and compliments. I watched Emily scan the room, her eyes sharp, her smile perfectly practiced. She wanted control of this family. She wanted to plant herself right at the center of every conversation. And Ryan, he wanted the applause, the admiration. He basked in it like it was oxygen. I let them enjoy it. For a little while. Dinner began, and as the plates were passed around and conversations rose, I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. I knew what I had to do, but the weight of it pressed hard against my chest. Exposing your own brother in front of the entire family, it wasn't something you did lightly. But then I looked at my parents, sitting quietly at the end of the table. My mother's hands folded tightly, my father's eyes fixed on his plate. I thought of the nights they spent worrying, of the betrayal they'd endured. And I remembered Emily's words, "This family will be mine." That was enough. I stood. My chair scraped loudly against the floor, silencing a few conversations. "I have something to say," I began, my voice steady, though inside my stomach knotted. Dozens of eyes turned toward me. Ryan smirked, clearly thinking I was about to make some sentimental toast. Emily tilted her head, her smile twitching. "This isn't easy," I continued, "but it's necessary, because this family deserves the truth." A hush fell. Even the children quieted. I pulled out the folder and laid it on the table. The sound echoed like a gavel. Ryan's smirk faltered. Emily's eyes narrowed. "These," I said, sliding out the first set of papers, "are bank documents. Proof that loans were taken against our family property. Without consent. Without discussion." Gasps spread around the table. Ryan laughed nervously, raising his hands. "Come on, Kate. This is ridiculous. You're making a scene over misunderstandings." But I didn't stop. I placed the next paper down. And these? Withdrawals that went straight into accounts under Emily's maiden name. Heads turned toward her. Whispers rose. Emily's smile stayed frozen, but her knuckles whitened around her wine glass. Still, I wasn't done. I pulled out my phone, pressed play, and set it on the table. Ryan's voice filled the room. I don't care about the old ball and chain. Emily's smarter than all of them combined. Once the parents are out of the way, it's all ours. Kate's too naive to stop us. The room went dead silent. Every relative's face shifted, from confusion to shock to anger. My father's shoulders slumped, my mother's lips trembled, and Ryan, his face drained of color. Kate, stop this, he shouted, voice cracking. You twisted this. You don't understand. But the evidence spoke louder than his protests. Emily finally snapped. She slammed her glass down so hard it shattered. Enough, she hissed. Do you people think she's some kind of saint? She's jealous. She's always been jealous. Ryan deserves everything. He's the only one who actually does something in this family, unlike her. Her mask was slipping right there in front of everyone. And I leaned forward, voice low but cutting. This isn't jealousy, Emily. This is justice. You wanted to own this family. You wanted to turn Ryan against us, bleed us dry, and then discard us. But you forgot one thing. Emily glared at me, seething. And what's that? I looked around the table, meeting every pair of eyes. The truth has a way of surfacing. And when it does, people see you for what you really are. Chaos erupted. Aunts whispered furiously to one another. Uncles demanded answers. Cousins pulled out their phones to record. My parents sat silently, but tears streamed down my mother's face. Ryan stood, fists clenched, eyes wild. You don't get to do this to me, Kate. You don't get to humiliate me like this in front of everyone. You did that yourself, I said evenly. Emily tugged at his arm, hissing in his ear, trying to calm him, but he shoved her away.
No.
She's been against me from the start. She wants to take everything for herself. You think she's so innocent? She's the manipulator. But no one was buying it anymore. The evidence was there. The recordings were undeniable. And Emily's cracks had turned into fractures, her composure completely gone. Someone's voice rang out from the end of the table. Ryan, how could you? He spun, searching for an ally but found none. His empire of lies crumbled in real time. And I stood there, calm amidst the storm, the folder still open in front of me like a battlefield trophy. Finally, I picked up the last document. My voice was steady, but my heart raced. One more thing. The transfers Emily made? They weren't just for shopping sprees or little luxuries. They were to accounts overseas. In her family's name. She wasn't building a future for Ryan. She was preparing to cut him out too. A stunned silence followed. Ryan turned slowly to Emily, disbelief on his face. Is that true? Her lips parted, but no words came. For the first time, her mask shattered completely. The betrayal hit him like a physical blow. His knees buckled, his bravado evaporated. He sank back into his chair, staring at her as if he didn't recognize the woman beside him. The entire room saw it then. Ryan, the proud brother, the golden child, reduced to nothing. Not by me, but by the person he chose over us. And that was the final twist of the knife. When the gathering ended, people avoided Ryan and Emily. Some relatives whispered apologies to me, others promised support. My parents clung to me, their gratitude unspoken but heavy in their eyes. Ryan and Emily left in silence, their heads down, their bond fractured by exposure. But as I watched them walk away, I knew this wasn't over. People like Emily don't go down without a fight. And Ryan, broken as he looked, still carried enough pride to lash out when cornered. The storm had erupted, but the aftermath would be just as dangerous. And I had to be ready for whatever came next. When the dust settled after that family gathering, I thought maybe, just maybe, Ryan and Emily would retreat. That shame would keep them quiet, force them to disappear into the shadows. But I was wrong. A week later, papers arrived at my parents' doorstep. Legal threats. Accusations that I had fabricated evidence, that I had turned the family against Ryan and his wife out of jealousy. The audacity almost made me laugh. Almost. But instead, I took a deep breath, folded the papers neatly, and said to my parents, if they want a war in court, then that's exactly what they'll get. The courtroom smelled of old wood and polished floors, heavy with the weight of too many broken families. Sitting there, I felt the gravity of it all. Ryan on one side, jaw clenched, eyes filled with resentment. Emily beside him, whispering in his ear like a serpent, her gaze flicking toward me with thinly veiled hatred. And me, sitting with my lawyer, folder thicker than ever, heart steady. The judge entered, and everything began. Ryan's lawyer painted me as the bitter sister, envious of Ryan's success, fabricating lies to drag him down. Emily even took the stand, crocodile tears rolling down her cheeks as she claimed I had always hated her and couldn't stand to see Ryan happy. It was almost laughable. The performance, the rehearsed lines, the feigned innocence. But I didn't laugh. I let them have their stage, their moment, because I knew what was coming. When it was my turn, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I laid out the documents, line by line, transfer by transfer. I played the recordings again, Ryan's own words damning him far more effectively than I ever could. And then came the final blow. Bank statements traced directly to Emily's overseas accounts. Wire transfers with her name attached. Evidence so airtight it silenced even her lawyer. Ryan's face drained of color. Emily's tears stopped. For the first time, she had no words. The judge leaned forward, scanning the evidence, his brow furrowing deeper with every page. When he finally spoke, his tone was stern, absolute. These actions, fraudulent transfers, forgery, misappropriation, are not misunderstandings. They are crimes. The property transfer is voided, and the matter will be referred for further investigation. The gavel struck. Final. Irrevocable. And just like that, Ryan and Emily's empire of lies collapsed completely. As the courtroom emptied, Ryan sat slumped in his chair, eyes vacant. Emily stood stiff beside him, her mask gone, her anger naked and raw. She turned once to look at me, hatred burning in her gaze, but I didn't flinch. Because in that moment, I realized something. I hadn't just defeated her. I'd taken back control of my family's dignity, our name, our home. The weeks that followed were a blur of headlines in the local paper, relatives calling to apologize, neighbors whispering about the scandal. Ryan and Emily isolated themselves, their reputations in tatters. Invitations stopped coming. Friends disappeared. The admiration Ryan had always basked in turned into scorn and pity. And my parents, they began to breathe again. My mother returned to her garden, her hands in the soil instead of clenched in fear. My father sat with me on the porch one evening, the sunset painting the sky in soft orange and pink. "You saved us, Kate," he said quietly. I shook my head. I just told the truth. He smiled sadly. The truth only matters when someone is brave enough to fight for it. But here's the thing. It wasn't just about bravery. It was about patience. About silence when silence was needed, and precision when the time was right. If I had lashed out at Ryan the moment I suspected him, he would have buried the evidence, twisted the story, and painted me as paranoid. Instead, I waited. I let him dig his own grave, brick by brick, lie by lie. And when the time came, I simply held up the mirror and made him look. Do I regret it? That's the question people sometimes ask me now. Do I regret humiliating my own brother? Do I regret tearing his world apart? And the truth is yes. A part of me does. Because no matter what he did, he's still my brother. A piece of my childhood. A part of me that I can't erase. But another part of me knows this. If I hadn't fought back, if I hadn't exposed him, my parents would have lost everything. Their trust, their security, their peace. Ryan chose his path. Emily guided him down it. And I chose to protect the family even if it meant destroying him. The last time I saw Ryan was months later. He was alone, standing outside the courthouse, waiting for his lawyer. He looked smaller somehow, shrunken, his shoulders hunched, his eyes hollow. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. But then I remembered the recordings. His laughter as he bragged about tricking us. Emily whispering that she would own this family. The nights my parents cried, thinking they'd lost their son. And the pity vanished. I walked past him without a word. So here I am, telling you this story. Not because it's easy, but because it matters. Betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people you love most, the ones you'd never think would turn against you. And when it does, you have a choice. You can let it break you, or you can turn it into strength. I chose strength.
And Ryan?
He'll never forget that the sister he underestimated, the one he thought was too quiet, too naive, was the one who ended it all.